Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and cockles presented by Bolin Media. I am Ross Bolin here with Barrett Dudley to talk about some shows we've been watching as well as a little bit of entertainment news. Barrett.
Yeah, and you're speaking of the month-long celebration that we're doing this month, right?
What's that?
It's a big anniversary. It's a really big anniversary. I thought, isn't that the entertainment news that you're leading with?
The anniversary of what?
You don't know that it's the 11th anniversary? Like, we're celebrating all month because 11 years ago, in August of 2012, is when Macklemore dropped Thrift Shop?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great thing to celebrate.
Right?
That is exactly what I was referencing.
Yes. We were just celebrating all month long. It's August, a.k.a., thrifting month, basically.
Thrift shop month.
Thrift shop month.
Yeah, at the end of today's show, I'm going to go through the stats,
Uh-huh, yeah.
Related to Thrift Shop, the song.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, that's I'm excited to be here today to to acknowledge and celebrate and appreciate Macklemore's Thrift Shop.
Don't forget about Ryan Lewis.
Right. Well, it was actually
Ryan Lewis.
So the song was actually released on August 27th, and Ryan Lewis was the one that he was the man that posted the video to his YouTube page on August 29th.
Wow.
Yeah, and a lot of people would say that the song's success has a great deal to do with its enthralling music video.
Many people say that.
Many people are saying that.
Yeah, and people forget that it was Ryan Lewis who put that out on August 29th.
Right, I know. Yeah.
2000.
Well, I'm here to correct, the people that have the facts wrong. I'm just here to illuminate them and illuminate the facts and enlighten the people.
It's what you do.
That is what I do, much like Macklemore does through rhyming poetry in the form of rap and hip hop music.
Got a Grammy for that one.
He did.
A controversial Grammy.
Yeah.
I would note. Before we dive into today's other talking points, if you are one of our loyal supporters on Patreon had an issue with payment processing this month, so you may have had your monthly pledge declined as a result and do not any longer have access to your subscription. If you had an issue and are no longer subscribed, contact your card issuer to confirm the charge is valid and retry that card. If the retry does not work, try a different payment method. You can edit your payment in their settings under billing history. Last week on Patreon, we took hotline calls driving further discussion around The Bear as well as Oppenheimer. And the week before that, we did a full hour just on Oppenheimer, Barrett and I discussing our experience seeing the historic summer blockbuster. But when you subscribe on Patreon to support our show, you will immediately gain access to our entire backlog of ad-free Patreon-exclusive content, including Barrett and I's companion podcast for every single episode of HBO's classic crime drama, The Sopranos, which is, of course, friendly to both first-timers and repeat watchers alike. If you have never watched The Sopranos or are looking to do a rewatch, hop on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles for our companion podcast coverage, and it will be at least twice, perhaps even thrice, as fun. You'll also immediately gain access to bonus coverage for House of the Dragon Season 1, The White Lotus Season 2, The Last of Us Season 1, and Succession's final season, as well as Silo Season 1 and more. A lot of piping hot exclusive content there for you to devour on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles for as little as $5 a month. So get in there and support OCC today. This week on Patreon, we are opening up the hotline to discuss anything and everything the Clam Fam desires, from whatever movies you've seen recently to whatever TV shows you are currently watching. Patreon, patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. So right now we are kind of in the middle of what I would describe as an essential viewing drought, Barrett, as well as a very real drought.
Well, there is
Austin,
one
Texas.
essential thing, it's like made $4 billion at the box office or whatnot, but you just refuse to see it because you hate feminism. And that's okay. That's okay.
It is because of my staunch anti-feminist stance.
You can't say that there's inessential viewing, when you've yet to see the other half of the Heimer, which is the Barb of the Barbenheimer. But on the TV front,
yes,
you are absolutely correct. We're in a bit of we're in the dog days. It's like they saw the sports schedule and they were just like, oh no, we can't have good TV on if there's no good sports on.
Yeah, I would note I am not Knuff, but yeah. So we've started watching random shows, including another Apple TV Plus program.
Apple TV Plus. kind of on a heater right now.
Known as
Kind of on a hot streak.
Hijack.
Yeah.
Hijack.
Good old I mean, both shows that we're going to talk about today, I would just classify as good old fashioned American television, even though one of them is very British.
Yes, and Hijack is a 7-part thriller miniseries created by George Kay and Jim
Actually, I
Field
guess
Smith.
both of them are British.
And it's starring Idris Elba. But I didn't realize it was a miniseries, first of all, when I started it last night. But I think all 7 episodes are available.
They are now available.
As we speak.
Yeah.
And Idris Elba plays a guy named Sam Nelson, who is like a hostage negotiator on a plane from Dubai to London that gets taken over by a mysterious group of hijackers. And that's not a spoiler. The show is literally called Hijack, and all the marketing around it shows you the plane and whatnot.
The only part there that you might have producer Kade bleep out is Sam Nelson's job title.
But that's also in the description of the show.
Yes, but I will say that the hook, line, and sinker of this show for me was the very end of episode 1, which has
when you find out his employment,
when you find out what he does in the corniest old-fashioned action movie way possible. And I was just like, I stood up off the couch and I was like, yes, yes. And obviously going forward here, there will be minor spoilers through 2 episodes of Hijack, although there's really not much to spoil through 2.
No, I would say there'll be very light spoilers because, I'm 2 episodes in, and pretty much so far, the gist of what I know is what I have laid out for you. A plane gets hijacked, and there's one guy on the plane who happens to be, he has a very special, particular set of skills that he can use to try to solve this problem that's happening, 40,000 feet in the air or whatever. But it's a very classic kind of cookie cutter thriller where the first couple episodes, I watched both of them last night. They're about an hour long, each episode. They lay out, they did one of those things that a lot of shows do where in the first, I would say, half hour, they're kind of just taking you around the plane. Like, here's a group of people that you'll meet and remember, and here's another group of people, and here's a guy, and here's this guy, and some of them might be hijackers. Which one do you think is going to take over the plane? Like that whole thing, which I really enjoyed because, it's not too complicated is what I'm saying. Like, at least not, the setup here. So as you go, though, through the first 2 episodes, by the end of episode 2, I'm like, what in the hell is going on? Because there seem to be so many things attached to this hijacking and why it has happened.
Yes.
That I obviously haven't gotten into yet.
Yeah,
so.
I'm only one episode ahead of you. I've seen through 3. And they're definitely they're rolling it out slow as far as why exactly the plane has been hijacked and who these people are. Although there has been, a brief kind of allusion to you have no idea how deep this goes.
Yeah.
And you're kind of getting into it in through 3, but even through 2, it's we're slowly expanding the world a little bit. We're bringing in more and more people and more agencies and more law enforcement and slowly it's just ratcheting up the scale of the thing. And what it's reminding me a lot of, and why I kind of call this good old fashioned American television, even though it's very British in its casting and its location, is it reminds me of something like 24 from back in the day.
Definitely.
Where it's just we're just pumping this into your veins because you love this shit and you know it. And it doesn't have to be more or less than. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all right there in the title for you. And I appreciate the simplicity and the forwardness of that. It's about a hijacking.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. And I mean, this is one that you definitely talked me into, Barrett. I could not bring myself to voluntarily end my day watching a show about a plane being hijacked. So two nights ago, I was talking to my wife. We got in bed and I was talking to my wife and I was like, so what do you want to watch? And she was like, well, you're going to throw on one of the 3 movies you throw on repeatedly, like Lord of the Rings or Dune or I forget the other one off the top of my head. But I was like, well, we could watch that show Hijack. And she was like, what the hell is Hijack? I was like, well, Barrett's watching it, and it's got Idris Elba, and I think it's about a plane being hijacked. And she was like, why would you want to watch a show about a plane being hijacked right before we go to sleep?
It's a hard sell for some, and including my fiance Laura, who I think is enjoying the story and lightly the thrill of it all, but also also finds things like thrillers to be
overstimulating.
Yes, and what I want to say is like scary. They're basically horror movies to her.
Right.
They're in her, like, the way that they function in her brain, they're exactly the same.
Yeah. So I think when it pertains to stuff like a plane being hijacked, she's not alone there.
Right. So we're definitely not watching more than 2 episodes a night. We cannot start this show any later than 9 p.m. because there has to be space for something afterwards.
Gotta have that chaser.
Gotta have the chaser on this one. I can watch this show right before I go to bed because it's just not like I don't really have that issue of like watching something and then going to bed. It just is what it is. I've got my own personal thoughts that are going to keep me up. It's not going to have anything to do with
I understand
with
that.
the TV or movie that I just watched.
Absolutely.
But I do understand that, like, this one puts you on the edge of your seat. It, like, your palms get a little sweaty. Like, it is, and that is a credit to what this show is doing, because it is making you tense. It is establishing the tension extremely well without telling you much and with very little dialogue.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
How many words total do you think Idris Elba has said through 2 episodes? Like 27?
Yeah, sub 100.
Sub 100 for sure. But he's definitely like I kind of alluded to a minute ago. Like the end of episode 1, you kind of get a little bit more character introduction. He's on his way. Sam Nelson is boarding this flight from Dubai back to London, partially like under the guise of doing some business, but also to go see his estranged ex-wife.
I think it's ex-wife.
And then we kind of cut to them after he's alerted her that something may be happening on the plane. She's got a new boyfriend, of course, who happens to be a local law enforcement agent, and a son who's just, he's kind of incredulous about the whole situation.
Yeah.
He still rides hard for dad.
Yeah. Doesn't like his mom's new white cop boyfriend.
White cop boyfriend. No, how could you?
He's cracking cop jokes.
But the end there, they're like, the boyfriend's kind of finding out about what's happening. And one thing that he does not know, that he's not been privy to as of yet, dating mom, is what exactly Sam Nelson does for a living.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, Ross, the thing is, he works for big businesses. They call him in when a deal's going down. He is the negotiator.
He's the only one who can get it done, Barrett. I loved the way they described this because I was like, what? Like, no job title, just that big corporations know when they're getting a deal done, this is the guy to call to bring in and make sure it all goes smoothly. He can make everybody feel good about the way it's going down.
Yes, yeah. But when they drop that kind of like, they give it that beat and then they drop that line about what he does, I was just like, oh yeah, here we go.
You love this shit. Feels like the 90s again. No, but it was definitely interesting the way they set this whole thing up, because you get the feeling in episode 1. I mean, going into this with the mindset of like a plane is going to be hijacked. Yeah. And the first thing they show you is like people boarding the plane. And you're like, well, that's the one. And then Idris Elba gets on it and there's like this guy rushing to get on the plane who like barely makes it, right?
Idris Elba helps get him on the plane, I would note.
Yeah, which all of this is tracking in my mind. I'm like, ooh, is that guy going to be important? What's in his bag? What's going on here? What if he hadn't made the flight? Which definitely comes into play immediately in a semi-cheesy way. And that's another thing about this that I appreciate. I'm not joking when I say it feels like the 90s, because it's kind of like a 90s action thriller.
Totally.
Hour by hour in the form of a TV show. But one of the questions I kept asking myself is like, did Idris Elba's character, Sam Nelson, know something was going to go awry on this flight? Because he's like, one of the things in episode 1 that I kept picking up on, I was like, this dude is way too chill. Even if his job is like, big time badass negotiator, sure.
Yeah.
There was still like an element of like, okay, well, but is he like some kind of a spy? Like he knew some shit was going to happen here, and he's there to like be part of it. It was just very, very confusing for me. Like what exactly? Like if it was just totally happenstance that he's there on this plane that gets hijacked between Dubai and London or whatever.
So at the end of episode 2, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody gets got. Right?
Yeah, hard.
Yes. Okay, yeah. All right. Just making sure before I launch in there.
But again, we have no idea why.
No.
Yeah.
But that's like your first kind of indication that this thing has far-reaching tentacles.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because this is 2023 and not the 90s, I am expecting some type of, kind of like pull the bag off of your head and now you see things for what they really are.
Yeah.
And like, is Idris Elba part of the organization is he much further up the chart than the hijackers potentially?
Right. Something is going on.
Because right now it's very like we're just buying it at face value that he happened to be on this plane and he is going to make sure that everything goes smoothly so that as few people as possible get hurt and they all make it down onto the ground in London town. But like maybe he's there to make sure that the hijacking goes according to plan.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell.
Maybe he's the failsafe.
Sure. Also, I would note captain of the plane. Total piece of shit.
Oh, yeah.
Guy sucks. Wow. Really gave up the cockpit there. The pace.
Oh, you're talking about previous captain, not current hijacking captain.
Yeah, I'm talking OG captain of the plane that was gonna, take off. By the way, I didn't even notice they took off. I thought they were still like on the ground the entire first episode. I was like, wow, they're just chilling on the runway, huh? They didn't even get this thing up in the sky. This is gonna be crazy. And they get into the sky. So no, I've enjoyed it through 2 episodes. I think my wife was like, she was a little hesitant going in, but she's into the story, and they're giving you so little with each episode that you end up you want to know what's going on here. That's the biggest question. I'm not like sitting there rattled with tension because the plane has been hijacked and like praying everybody's okay. It's more just it's like a mystery type of puzzle boxy feel because I'm like, what? Who is
Mm-hmm.
What is happening?
Yeah.
Which I enjoy.
Yeah, it's just a nice, and in that regard, it's kind of the perfect show for the summer doldrums.
Sure.
That we find ourselves in.
It's fun.
Because it's fun and it doesn't require like a whole lot of like, engagement or thought.
I'm not having to Google stuff after the episode
That's right.
ends. Let me put it that
That's
way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. And you can, if you are not as equipped or desiring to be watching a show that is tense and thrilling like this, like our significant others here, you can engage with the story while playing Sudoku on your phone.
Absolutely.
If you so choose.
Yeah, it's not one that you need to be glued to the screen the entire time. There are kind of big gaps in the action where little things are unfolding. And I would also just note, Barrett and I were in high school. I believe we were freshmen when 9/11 took place,
That's right? Yep.
All hijacking stuff permanently, and this is forever, will make me think specifically of terrorism and 9/11, right? Which is one of the first questions you have about this whole situation in the show Hijack. You're like, well, is this a terrorist thing?
Yeah.
But fairly quickly you get the vibe that like, oh, this might be a lot more complicated than that.
Yes.
And then 9/11 is even referenced in one of the first 2 episodes when the plane deviates off course. And I was like, wow, which actually did something for me that they even acknowledged, like 9/11 changed the way things like this unfold, right? Because obviously it did.
Yeah.
And it kind of gave my brain permission to like let go of 9/11 and the terrorism thing while I'm watching this, because that,
right.
The immediate worst case scenario fear is that you're in a situation where they're just going to run the plane into something, right? But yeah, hijacking stuff is always tough to watch too, because like, I mean, immediately I was like, well, I have a flight next month. You know what I mean? Like, and next time I get on the plane, I'm going to be thinking like, oh, God, I hope Idris Elba is on here somewhere. Yeah. Or maybe not.
Or maybe you don't want him
Maybe
on
I
there,
don't want him on there,
I do think it's kind of the genius of casting Idris Elba, because I think Idris Elba, well, one, he's awesome in this type of role. He's really aged into it well.
Yeah.
He's only 50, so it's not like he's like old, but he's got the little, I think I talked about this maybe on Patreon a little bit last week, but he's got a little bit of the grizzled appearance going now, but he's still great looking, and he's obviously like he's got the presence. You believe him as like a physical force.
Yeah, big dude.
He's a big dude, and then at the same time, he can play. He is one of the few actors, I would say, that play good guys as well as they play bad guys.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
there's not a lot of difference in the way he approaches those two things, I would say. That's
Sure.
a big part of this role.
Yeah.
Is that you keep asking yourself, like, what is his deal, man?
so that and so he's a great casting choice, and yeah.
I would also note something that, like, when you're about to have kids, people warn you about all kinds of things, mostly that you're never going to sleep again.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody tells you your TV watching time is going to fall off a cliff. You're essentially packing all of your entertainment time into a 2-hour window with all of your physical fitness time, with all of your like work preparation time. Like I didn't have enough of an appreciation for that before I had kids, and now it's one of the reasons that this Dog Days of Summer thing is really hitting heavy, because I'm like, I don't even know what to watch, which frankly, were we in a time of year where there were more options, Hijack would probably be pretty far down my list.
Yeah.
But I'm glad, like you said, it is kind of perfect for right now because it's not too heavy. It's just a fun ride with a little bit of thrill in there, a little bit of mystery. Idris Elba is incredibly enjoyable. And we talked about this a couple months ago. This is what Apple TV Plus does well.
Yeah.
They've got the budget, so it looks good, right? Or at least as good as it needs to in this case. They've got the star power, which is really what they've honed in on. Like, if you like, my wife goes, well, you know it's going to be good. Idris Elba's in it. And I was like, I don't know if he's earned that, but sure, okay. But you know what I mean? Because you feel like, well, they wouldn't have been able to get him if this isn't good, which I don't think is necessarily true anymore in 2023.
Right.
Especially when it comes to Apple TV, because they're pulling A-listers for every single project they do.
Yeah, I know we've got sorry to the Clan Fam members that are also part of the C clan. But they had, Big Bad Jason Momoa for multiple seasons of that, and I'm pretty sure it was total dog shit.
I got through 20 minutes of it, and I was laughing because I was like, I just couldn't take it seriously. It was such an absurd premise. But I did have people, and still have people on occasion, that go back and listen to whatever that time period was where I was dogging on C.
No, there's a C hive out there
that says that they enjoy it and it's good, and I'm an idiot, which is fair. But yeah, so this is what I'm working into my schedule right now on top of the other show we're going to discuss after our break. And Hijack, I can confidently recommend as a fun ride. It is enjoyable enough. It is not going to be the best thing you've seen on TV by any means, and it's not trying to be.
No.
And like we've said about some other stuff recently, that's okay. Okay.
Before we go to the break, can I ask you, have you started the new season of Winning Time yet?
No, but I heard negative things about episode 1 on the Twitter machine, which that doesn't mean all that much.
I've not watched it. I've not started it yet. But it is it's the first show where you are feeling now the lack of like because the actors are all on strike as well as the writers, and there
no promo,
and there's no talk shows, and there's no promo, and everybody is just basically out.
Yeah.
Of of the typical kind of froth around a big new season of a television show dropping. Man, you can feel it. You can really feel it on this one, because it's been so quiet that I hadn't even heard anything negative about it.
Let's talk about this for a second, because you're hitting on something really, really important that I think people who aren't as plugged into like the industry and what's happening with the strikes and all that, like this is a huge, huge deal, because it's the reason that movies like Dune Part 2 are being pushed back to 2024. They're abandoning these major studios are abandoning their release schedules because they are no longer going to have all of their A-list actors that they've invested all of this money in. Like when they pay, Timothée Chalamet, let's just say, like Timothée Chalamet, part of his job and part of what I believe he's contractually obligated to do as the star of Dune is go promote the thing too. Like there's some promotion clause in there in some way, shape, or form, is my understanding.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that is correct.
And so like when the movie's coming out, that's why you see Timothée Chalamet is out on, doing the Tonight Show or whatever. I don't know. I don't watch these anymore.
Yeah,
the Tonight Show is one of them, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so they go and do the rounds on the talk shows. They go and do Good Morning America. They go and do all these different things that let the public know, oh yeah, Dune Part 2 is coming out. And when you don't have them because they're all on strike and they're not participating in this, right? Which is obviously it didn't affect Barbie and Oppenheimer that much because of the Barbenheimer meme,
and because the actors had not gone on strike yet when those released.
Right. So they were going out and doing stuff before.
They were doing the premieres. They had gotten a good way into the into the press tour, essentially, and then the actors went on strike. And I think they still fulfilled a couple of those dates, and then they bailed on it.
It definitely cut it short, but I think the
but
slack was picked up in this case by the internet sensation,
the word of
it
mouth
all,
and
right?
the buzz and all of that. Yes, totally.
Which is not how it works with everything. Not everybody gets lucky enough to turn into a meme. And when it comes to winning time, for example, 100% like John C. Reilly would have been going and doing talk shows. They would have been promoting this thing, right? They would have had some of the other big name guys and even the new dude who plays Magic Johnson out there promoting the show. Because they're not, there is this total lack of buzz, I would say.
Yeah.
And you're right. This is the first TV show, because it's HBO, that I think we really would have seen a lot more. And instead it's like ho-hum because of the writer's strike and the Actors Guild strike as well. So if you're wondering, like, why are some of these movies that I thought were coming out this year no longer coming out this year, it's because the promotional vehicle around them has been completely dismantled. And as a result, their risk of losing a massive financial investment is much, much higher.
Yeah.
Studios are not willing to take that risk, and they're going to pull the movies and push them back. So we're kind of continuing what I would say is probably the worst 5-year stretch for movies in my lifetime, where COVID caused all of this discombobulation, where we're all like, wait, what? Like, things are getting pushed back constantly. Like, one movie dropped, and that one, it was like Tenet just got pushed out there, and then everybody else was like, nope, we're fucking out. And now, just when we thought it had recovered and Tom Cruise had saved Hollywood and
Cruise had saved Hollywood
and the movie theater,
and then we literally got the true, like, yes, Maverick last year for sure counts. It did, but this Barbenheimer thing was like the biggest and best thing that had happened to movies in a decade plus,
certainly since before the pandemic.
And then they just shot themselves right in the foot. Then, then they just cut off their nose to spite their face.
And now we're back where we were sort of in the COVID times, where everything is uncertain and we don't know when this is going to end. And obviously from a consumer perspective, it's more about like, I'm just like, when am I going to get my favorite movies and TV shows? But this is also a lot of people's livelihoods at stake here. And one of the big problems in Hollywood is that when you think of like Dune as an example, and Timothée Chalamet is the guy that comes to mind. There are thousands of people involved in the creation of that movie, from the camera people and the people on the set and all the different jobs. There's so many different roles to be played in putting together a major motion picture, and most of the people are not making Chalamet cash, right? So like, there's all these. It's for a lot of people, it's a day job that they grind just like the rest of us. And they get paid like shit because of these deals with the fucking studios.
Yeah.
And so they're out there fighting for their lives or whatever. And it can seem really, the reason I say this, it can seem really silly to us, like as just everyday non-actors, non-writers, non-creatives, for those of us out here. When you look at Hollywood, like, you're like, I don't feel bad for these people. They're all loaded and living in the hills. And no, that's not the case with a lot of the people that work on your favorite shit. And that's the reason why they're fighting so hard for what they see as they're doing proper. So, obviously, stand with the creatives. I also don't know what we're supposed to do as people, like as regular TV and film fans.
Yeah, not much.
We don't really have
It's balls in their courts, We
can't even do anything with I'm like, call my congressman.
No, you can't.
He doesn't care what I think.
No.
They don't
You could
give a
like
shit.
try to like dial up Hulu and like ask to speak to the president.
All of us are supposed to cancel our streaming subscriptions. What am I supposed to do with my fucking 2 hours at night?
Call up Disney and see if Bob Iger will talk to you.
I don't think he's going to.
No, I don't think he's going to.
No, yeah. I doubt it very much. But yeah, so Winning Time, I'm looking forward to starting it just because, again, like we talked about when season 1 came out, I love the NBA, I love basketball, I love NBA history. This is one of the coolest stories in the history of the NBA and of professional sports all around, probably. The one thing I will say, I was always concerned with like the longer term viability of this show. Like, does it have staying power? Like, how many seasons realistically can they pull off? We were talking about something that everybody knows where it goes. We all know what happens if you're a huge fan, right? I think it's almost better viewing for people who are not super plugged into the NBA and aren't aware of like the Showtime Lakers and the history of what happened there.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea what's coming around the corner. Whereas for me, I'm like, well, I know how this ends, and everything in between just feels a little lackluster.
Yeah, I'm reserving judgment because until I see season 2 because I
Sure.
loved season 1.
Season 1 was
really, really
great.
enjoyed it. So
Surprisingly good, I would say.
So I don't want to bury a show that I've not even given a chance on its sophomore
I'm just
season.
saying that's the peril here. I think Winning Time has to establish it has to keep us plugged in and interested for reasons outside of the obvious. Right. So we'll see how they do with season 2. But yeah, I don't think episode 1 notes really mean that much one way or the other. If people were like, episode 1 rules, that wouldn't make me think, oh, this season's going to crush. It's just like,
if anything, it feels more of just like a kind of a tail stream or a hang on from the narrative or kind of that picked up as season 1 was ending, which was just that everybody was pissed off at how they were being portrayed.
Yeah, that was funny to me.
And that's kind of the vitriol that's sort of hanging on still a little bit.
That might make sense, yeah.
Oh, this fucking show, they can't even, that's not what Jerry West was like. Here we go again with this bullshit.
It's exactly what Jerry West was like. Jerry West proved that was exactly what Jerry West was like.
That's kind of the feeling that I get if there's any negativity surrounding it. But again, we got to watch it. I'm sure we'll comment on it at some point in the coming weeks.
We will. Now let's get to something else we're watching. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs, making the most comfortable and versatile shorts, pants, and bathing suits in the entire world. I've been wearing Bird Dogs for several years now. They cannot be beaten. I wear them to sleep, to do yard work. I wear them to work out. I wear them to go swimming. I am wearing them literally right now.
Wow.
As I speak. All of their tons of designs and color combinations you can pick from. They all have funny names like the Art Fart Knockers, Duffy the Vampire Slayers, Uncle Bucks, Teddy Rubskins, Forest Pumps, Marco Pool Boys, and more. If you want to look like money while you're working in the yard or swimming at the pool, this summer, Bird Dogs are the move, and their pants are great for the golf course or the office or going out to dinner and hitting the bars. #versatile. Pants look phenomenal. You'll look sharp, but you'll feel even better. You'll be so much more comfortable than anyone realizes. And now they've also got great looking polo shirts that are just as comfortable as everything else they make. So click on the link in the description below to go to birddogs.com/dragon and enter code DRAGON when you check out. And they will throw in a free Bird Dogs tech hat with every order, like the one I'm holding in the palm of my hand. It's a beautiful Bird Dogs hat for free when you go to birddogs.com/dragon. Use code DRAGON at checkout, birddogs.com, code DRAGON. All right, so we are now 6 episodes. Thank you, Birdman. We are 6 episodes into What We Do in the Shadows, Season 5, which still feels crazy for me when I say it out loud because I can't believe we're 5 seasons into the show. But this is after what I would call a lackluster 4th season that left me kind of scratching my head, hoping that they hadn't lost their fastball. Barrett, you're 1 episode behind me. I'm all the way through 6 episodes. I'm not going to do any spoilers here other than to say this show is fully back. I think this season, granted there are a few episodes left, has the chance to be the overall funniest season they have done since the first.
Wow.
It is it just makes me so happy every time I tune in for an episode right now because seriously, episode 4 or season 4 was just sort of a derailment. They tried something big, as you and I have talked about. They swung. They sort of missed. It wasn't like a total failure. I still had laughs here and there, but the Vampire Nightclub was kind of stupid, and Baby Colin Robinson was kind of stupid. So we've done away with both of those things entirely. They've been completely abandoned in the past, never to be spoken of again. Moved on to a new season where they're doing, I will say this, some really big things plot-wise that we have kind of been waiting for since the show's OG season.
Yeah.
Which is part of it. There's more weight to it now. You feel invested in what's actually happening with the characters, not just the silliness, but then also the silliness is sharp. It's really clever again. Mm-hmm. The jokes are hitting hard. I'm laughing my ass off every single time I sit down to watch an episode, even if there's little build-up periods and chunks, 5 minutes where I'm sitting there going, is something going to happen? And then all of a sudden something happens that has me, cracking up in bed. So I'm very stoked that this thing is back, Barrett.
Yeah, I was calling this a British show, just like a Hijack. I guess truthfully, it's a New Zealand show. It's a Kiwi show since it was created by a couple of Kiwis. But Matt Berry is decidedly British. He plays
Laszlo
Cravensworth. Thank you, Laszlo Cravensworth. And,
Laszlo. New York City.
And I think the actor that plays Nandor is also British.
Kayvan Novak.
And maybe Nadja.
Is British,
and
yes.
maybe Nadja as well. So that's why I was calling it British. It's just because it definitely has some of that humor kind of throughout, the very kind of dry and then kind of witty, cracking, and then almost like, Matt Berry, he was on Mighty Boosh. Did you know that?
I did not.
If you're not familiar with Mighty Boosh, you're almost definitely familiar with the old Greg sketch.
Sure.
That came from the Mighty Boosh, which was like a British sketch comedy show.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Just to come back to what you were saying, though, and to piggyback off that, totally agree that this season has corrected itself or put itself back on the track that it was on, churning out really, really good episodes. It's very, very funny. I don't think I was all the way with you through the first, let's see, I wanted maybe 3 episodes, but 4 and 5, if I'm remembering correctly. I know 5 was called Local News.
Yeah.
Where there is a break
a
break in the water main. That was truly an
It was one of the
amazing
funniest
episode.
ones they've ever done. Yeah.
And then 4, I believe, was Colin Robinson having a relationship with another energy vampire, which was also an awesome, very, very funny episode.
Yes.
Now that I'm saying that, even the Pride Parade episode was awesome.
Yeah.
So really, maybe it was just the first 2 where I think I was kind of just like getting back into the flow and like wondering if they were going to kind of right the ship a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
And then they went on. Then they did. I do agree. They've been on a string of episodes that are very, very high level, very good, very kind of potentially Pantheon episodes. I've not gone back and watched season 1 and season 2 stuff in a long time, so like it's hard to remember just how good and funny it was. But it was also, I think, one of the great things about What We Do in the Shadows, especially if you've never watched it or if you're new to it or if you're just discovering it, is it's both very familiar in its mockumentary
No pun intended.
style,
Familiar.
while also being about something totally like off the wall and kooky.
Yeah.
Right. So you're getting like this like niche genre element of it with all the vampire stuff, but then it feels like you're watching Parks and Rec or The Office or whatever. So it's that like it's just, there's a novelty to it at the beginning that I think really like just kind of elevates the whole show.
No, definitely.
But yes, this season has been a definite return to form. I'm very happy to see it. I'm not mad at what they tried to do with season 4, but I totally agree that the baby Colin Robinson thing was a whiff.
It's just weird, man.
I kind of was into the nightclub thing until they tied baby Colin Robinson into the nightclub thing. Until he's like suddenly the performer at the nightclub. And then I was like, okay, this is weird.
It was so stupid.
It was really weird. The CGI wasn't great. So there were definitely some hiccups with that season. But this is an awesome 25-minute, easy to watch, hilarious comedy that's right there for the taking on Hulu.
Taika
Waititi?
Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement are fucking weirdos.
Mm-hmm.
These Kiwis are weirdos. They've got really weird sense of humor, and it makes for something that is very unique because their style of comedy is very different.
And that's an interesting question. I haven't been super paying attention to like who's writing and directing all these episodes, but I don't think Taika and Jermaine have much to do with the show at this point.
So I keep seeing written by Jermaine Clement in the credits for this one. So I almost think like he may have watched. I'm just speculating. I have no idea if there's any truth to this. That he was like, oh, this is going off the rails. I'm going to come back in and
definitely think
lock it down.
Through the seasons, Jermaine has been involved. I know he's written and I know he's directed episodes as well.
Yeah.
Taika, I think, is really more of like a co-creator in name only because he helped create the movie.
Yeah.
And so he's got like that producer and creator credit. But I'm not sure how much he's had to do with the seasons overall. I think he's directed a couple of episodes, but early on, I could be wrong. I might be wrong. But just a note there that I don't actually know what their relationship or level of involvement in the show is at this point.
Right. Jermaine Clement, I first became familiar with when you and I were in college, and What We Do in the... I'm sorry, that's the show we're talking about currently. Flight of the Conchords came out on HBO.
Yes.
And it was like this really stonerish, again, Kiwi comedy where about these dudes that basically have formed a band and they're trying to make it, right? Like that was the premise of the show, and they're freaking weirdos and they get into all kind of hijinks, and there's a ton of musical comedy involved. A lot of really funny songs and stuff. And he kind of fell off the face of the earth for me after Flight of the Conchords kind of ran its course. I don't even know if I watched the full series. Like after a couple seasons, it was kind of like, okay, we get it. But to see him pop back up and be doing something like this just made me really happy too, because he's obviously a very creative, talented, and funny person. And this is like the perfect vehicle for both of their styles, really. Taika Waititi too. Like this is the kind of shit that he does. Like you said, he did the movie. There's a movie that inspired this TV show of the same name that I thought was hilarious. And at this point, we've talked about it several different times. If you like funny stuff on TV, I almost guarantee you will like What We Do in the Shadows. For all the bad things I've said about season 4, it was still funnier and more entertaining than most of the comedies on TV to me. So I didn't like the storylines. I thought it was maybe losing its fastball. That is definitely not the case based on what I've seen through 6 episodes in season 5. And it's like mockumentary style, like Barrett said. It gives you that feel like you're watching The Office or Parks and Recreation, right? Except it's the premise of a bunch of vampires living in a house together and how their lives function and whatnot. And it's hysterical. Truly, truly funny. Anything else on What We Do in the Shadows, Mr. Dudley?
No. I just wanted to shout out Rhys Darby as band manager Murray on Flight of the Conchords, because he was my favorite character.
Oh, and also now he is the star of another HBO show, because this is how HBO does. It's the Our Flag Means Death.
Oh, okay.
Which is also strange, sort of Kiwi-esque feeling comedy at different times. But yeah, also love that show, and I'm pretty sure there's a new season coming out soon. We'll never know when it does, though, because nobody's allowed to promote anything.
Yeah. I think, on that front, I've heard rumblings. This might even be some news, some press release type of stuff that, like, basically it sounds like the studios and the writers have agreed to start talking again, basically. They've agreed to the meeting to
go back to the table
to start the renegotiations at the table.
Okay,
it's kind of like a promise. Like what am I thinking of? The Arrested Development. Is it a pre-promise ring or something?
Maybe.
What am I thinking of?
I can't. I'm not with you. I have no idea.
Yeah. Doesn't Michael get pre-engaged to Anne?
Oh, pre-engagement. Yeah. Pre-engagement. Yes. Yes.
That's kind of what that's like the stage that they're in.
Okay, yeah.
They've agreed to maybe work things out.
That sounds promising.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's better than nothing. And hopefully this thing gets resolved here in the next few weeks, in the next month or so, because it's really a downer.
It is getting to the point of being a problem.
Yeah. For
all of us now, not just the people who are not getting paid as a result.
And I do not want to, if Dune ends up getting pushed or whatever, fine. But like, I need Night Country, man. I need True Detective Night Country.
Yeah.
And they're gonna push that if Jodie Foster can't go around and talk and do talk shows and do that type of stuff.
And it looks like Our Flag Means Death season 2 was meant to drop in October, so that's another one that's like, I guarantee you the release date is up in the air, and something they're considering based on the strike as well. Because that show is a lot more niche. It's a lot more of like a cult classic following type of deal, where they need the actors to be able to go out and promote the thing, so people will tune in and watch
on
it.
social media, even like that type of stuff.
Exactly.
It's all the organic and social aspect of it too that they rely pretty heavily on.
Yeah, and in the case of TV, like you push the season out anyway, and then the ratings are shit. Like you may have just ended the show. Like that's the risk you run with this. Whether with movies, it's more just about the getting their return on what they've invested.
Yep.
Anyway, What We Do in the Shadows, season 5, humming along, very, very pleased, wondering how many seasons of the show they will try to get away with. But it's certainly, I would say, the main plot line of the season tells me we're probably in the last few seasons here. I doubt very much that they go deeper than 7 or 8 seasons, based on what's happening now on the show. So.
Yeah, six or 7 feels like the right
Like
number.
that's all we need.
Yeah.
Don't push it too far.
Yeah.
Take it into a weird place. As my wife well knows, I'm an utterly and completely worthless person in the kitchen. That's why I rely on today's sponsor, Factor, to keep me fueled up and ready to rock with wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track. So if you're too busy with your end-of-summer goals to cook but want to make sure you're eating well, Factor. Skip the trip to the grocery store, skip the chopping, prepping, and cleaning too. Factor's fresh, never-frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy, then get back outside and soak up the warmer weather. I just got a new box of Factor yesterday. Simple as this. It shows up to your door, you unpack it, you put the individual meals in your refrigerator, and when you're ready to eat, you go grab one, I throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and that is it. Take it out. It's delicious. They're great. And sometimes you need something that tastes yummy to eat while you're enjoying your favorite shows from the couch and avoiding the insanely hot weather outside. So if you want to cut back on takeout, get Factor instead. Not only is Factor cheaper than takeout, but meals are ready faster than restaurant delivery in just 2 minutes. This August, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door. 2 minutes, no prep, no mess. So if you're living life on the fly like I am, I could not more highly recommend Factor. It's time to sign up for Factor with our special offer just for members of the Clam Fam. Head to factormeals.com/OCC50 and use code OCC50 to get 50% off your first box. That's code OCC50 at factormeals.com/OCC50 to get 50% off your first box. Barrett, in the last 48 hours, I've seen a noticeable amount of hype around a new Netflix show called Painkiller. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
I've never heard of it.
Okay, well, basically, it's Dope Sick. Remember Dope Sick? It's about the opioid crisis.
Yes.
Except they've removed some of the depressing, overly serious nature of the topic and inserted more like sexiness and a little bit of like comedy here and there. Matthew Broderick.
Like it's fun to like almost die from a fentanyl overdose.
More fun than
very sexy.
More fun than Dope Sick.
Fentanyl's sexy.
Well, there's like sexy sales girls going around and pushing OxyContin on everybody. They're like, we'll get hot chicks to do, which may have been part of their actual strategy. Just wasn't touched on as much in Dope Sick, perhaps. But they're also sort of making a mockery of the Sattler family, the evil bastards behind the whole opioid epidemic, and but it is the exact same subject matter, which is what's strange about it. Like, Hulu nailed this. Dope Sick was phenomenal. It got nominated for a bunch of different Emmys, and then Netflix was like, well, this is happening a lot with these different streamers, by the way, where they all tackle like the same shit.
Yeah.
But now they're doing theirs, and it's also got Taylor Kitsch in it, this will be the first thing I've seen him in since his disastrous season of True Detective, where, But it was just interesting to me because, again, we've already done this, and we did it very, very well with Dope Sick. That was an awesome, awesome show. I literally had to stop watching it 4 or 5 episodes in because I was like, I can't fucking handle this right now. It's too heavy. It's very dark, very depressing. It's a huge downer. And the one thing I will say about Netflix's attempt, look, nothing bad can happen from more people becoming aware of what occurred there, like with Big Pharma, with the painkillers, with the opioid crisis. And that's a cautionary tale, I would say, just for everybody living now, with regard to how that whole world operates, because it's very much still an issue. Like, we may not have the same problem in America that we had with opioids before such a big spotlight got shined on it, but we have it with other drugs too. The same type of issue and the same exact strategy gets executed. That's the coolest thing to me about Dope Sick, and that apparently Painkiller also gets into, is the strategy of how they got so many people on these pills. And so I keep seeing tweets about it and stuff. People are apparently enjoying it. If you never watched Dope Sick, maybe you'll be interested in Painkiller. because Matthew Broderick's funny face and antics will make it a little lighter.
People are also talking about another Netflix show called Is It Cake?
The hell is that?
And Is It Cake 2, which is season 2 of Is It Cake. It's a baking show where people are making cakes, and then you have to decide. They make the cake that looks like a very realistic object, and they put it next to the realistic object, and then a panel of judges has to decide, is it cake?
Like, which one's real? Yeah. That is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard.
But the cakes, that's the thing about them. They are hyper realistic, not super realistic, hyper realistic.
Hyper.
Like they literally look like the thing.
And when you said, is it cake 2, it's is it cake, comma, TOO.
Yeah, that's right.
Like the play on words.
Good play on words there.
Okay. Did you watch season 1?
No, I have not watched any of it.
Are you a baking show guy?
Well, I do love Great British Bake Off, but that's generally as far as like my cooking show watching goes. This is obviously kind of riding on the coattails of that. It's an American version. It's hosted by Mikey Day from SNL. And I'd be lying if I said that this hasn't caught my attention, but I've not started watching. I've not reached that. I've not reached the bottom of the pit just yet. My list of stuff that I'm trying to catch up on is still far too long to give in to the allure of is it cake, but it's catchy. It's catchy.
I've also seen people making reference to like the writer's strike and the acting strike being like, there's nothing to watch now. And I'm like, you are out of your goddamn mind if you think that's the case. Like if you've watched everything good and worthy of watching already, which I don't believe anyone has, because we're smack in the middle of this golden age of TV as a result of the streaming wars. There's so many things that I have in my backlog, and part of the reason that the whole writer's strike, actor's strike never really raised an alarm in my mind is because I was like, well, fuck it, I've got so many different things to catch up on still.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, if neither strike had happened, I think that we would be in the same position right now. It's just kind of a lull.
Yeah,
like
it's just the way it goes.
And that happens. And typically, we would be just about to launch into like the fall broadcasting slate, and like all of the shows will be coming back to broadcast television, which would at least like give like, you know, there would be some hubbub around the watching and consuming of television. Rising sea lifts all ships, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So I think there would just be a little bit more buzz with actors going on social media and the talk shows and the promo tours and all that type of stuff that we've talked about. But right, it's just as far as Sunday nights go, as far as HBO goes, as far as like, you know, we just got off the tail end of the bear. We just got off of, the long run of HBO shows, and it's just a bit of a quiet time right now.
You can't be hot all the time.
Yeah.
Two more things I want to get in before we leave quickly. Obviously, you've heard about the drama around Blindside.
Yeah, Michael Oher. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Orris has come out and is now saying that the family, the white family that was immortalized in the 2009 movie The Blind Side,
starring Sandra Bullock,
actually basically like grifted him. Mm-hmm. They had him in a conservatorship like Britney Spears style rather than adopting him, so they didn't actually adopt him. They had him in a situation where they could legally do business on his behalf, and they all made millions of dollars off of the movie Blindside while he got absolutely bupkis. There's a lot of like, the family has obviously come out and been like, well, we don't know how he didn't know, basically is their excuse so far, which is really not great. But this is one of those stories where I saw it and I wasn't even surprised.
Right,
I was just like, yep, there was always something weird going on there, man. Like, sure. Feel-good movie, phenomenally well-done movie. But if you watch that and just went, that's exactly how it happened, you're probably living in La La Land.
I could smell the fish from a mile away.
Yeah.
And that's why I never watched the movie.
You never saw Blindside?
No.
Oh, good for you. Yeah. You didn't support this.
No, I did not. I didn't support them.
Family of con artists.
Phonies. Phonies.
And the only other thing, big news for all the Barbie girls in a Barbie world. Margot Robbie, did you see the figure she's going to pull from starring in Barbie? The amount of money.
The number.
Yeah.
The approximated number?
Yeah.
No.
50 million is what she's looking at now.
Okay, that's obviously that's a great number for her, but I'm actually surprised that it's not well, is that so I know
that's including bonuses and incentives based on performance.
Does that include her salary as well?
Yes.
Okay. So that's kind of that's a lower number than I would have thought.
I mean, I don't think movie stars are pulling like the guaranteed 20, 30 million that they once were.
So she and Gosling both got paid. I can't remember if it was 12 or 15, but they both got paid the same amount, and it was either 12 or 15 million dollars as like their salary for this film.
So then I'd say like another 35 on top.
But she produced it. She is the producer of this movie.
And I think that's why she's the news is surrounding her specifically, not Gosling. Right. So I don't think he's getting the same bonuses and incentives.
For reference, for comparison, and I'm pulling these numbers out of my ass here. So I will go back and check them, and you can Clam Fam correct me on Patreon this week if you'd like to. But like I just remember like Johnny Depp and Robert Downey Jr. for Pirates films and for like Iron Man films.
Yeah.
Those guys from like back end, from producing, from salary, were pulling down like 80 to 100 million a film.
But they were also very deep into their careers at that point. Like the more surprising one is Robert Downey Jr. to me, because that was sort of his big turn back toward the A-list and whatnot. Yeah, but like Johnny Depp was Johnny Depp. Yeah. Like Johnny Depp was commanding whatever he wanted.
They were getting higher numbers on the salary end of that. I think they were in that 20 to 30 million for just their fee alone. But yeah, I'll be curious. You know, I mean, look, this movie has been out for a month. It's already grossed over $1 billion. Like, I have a sense that 50 million number is probably going to climb.
You're probably right. I'll read you a bit from Variety here. It says, Margot Robbie is being richly rewarded for her key role in bringing Barbie to the big screen. The star and producer behind the summer's biggest hit stands to make roughly $50 million in salary and box office bonuses, according to 3 individuals with knowledge of her deal. Barbie director and co-writer Greta Gerwig will also receive bonuses because of the film's outsized success. Barbie has earned an astonishing $526.3 million at the domestic box office since it opened just a month ago, as well as $657.6 million at the international box office. That comes out to $1.18 billion globally, and that figure should keep climbing given that Barbie is still topping box office charts. So like Barrett just said, like we're a month. I mean, this is not gonna stop.
No, and actually, this is the one property that might benefit from all the strike-related stuff and all the pushbacks, because
the hype stays there. Focused.
Because that's a movie that's in theaters that people are going to go see and then see again, especially if there's nothing new coming out. And then it's going to get another push if all the awards movies get bumped, because it's going to get nominated for a bunch of awards.
This weekend I'm going. I guarantee it. This is the weekend, Barrett. This is my weekend.
Do you mind if I read you just a couple more tidbits?
Can I finish mine first?
Yeah, please go. Yeah.
Thank you. The film is now the second, and this is fucking mind-boggling to me, the second highest grossing release in the history of Warner Brothers, behind Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Wow.
It's it's all of the other Harry Potter movies, it's bigger than, minus Deathly Hallows Part 2. It's also the highest grossing film ever from a female director, overtaking the previous record holder, Frozen 2, which was co-directed by Jennifer Lee. So it really, like, yes, it's been a summer blockbuster that's had a ton of success, but also like historical success.
Yeah, groundbreaking success.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, your turn.
Yeah, okay. Here we go. The song illustrates Macklemore's interest in buying cheap clothing from thrift shops, disdaining designer labels and trends. He claims to enjoy donning, quote, your granddad's clothes, and impulsively buying a sharp-looking but strong-smelling fur stole just because, quote, it was 99 cents.
Huge. Thank you, Barrett. Thank you. Hey, we delivered on our promise from the top of the episode, and that's important.
Thrift Shop is written in the key of G minor and has a tempo of 95 beats per minute. The song is prominently underpinned by a looping saxophone melody.
It was 99 cents,
It was
Barrett.
99 cents. Please don't make Barbie 2. That is my one question that I fucking beg of you, Warner Brothers.
Oh, God.
Take the W. Understand that part of its success was it because it wasn't a sequel.
And it was novel.
And it was novel and
Walk
new
away.
and had something fresh to offer and say, and the way that it looked. Please don't make a sequel.
Here's the problem. Even if they're smart enough not to, we're in the age now where they'll like, all right, fine. We'll respect it. We won't do a sequel. But then they wait 20 years and they're like, all right, now we're doing a sequel.
Okay, fine. Okay, yeah. A moratorium on the sequel.
Yes.
At least 10 years.
It's like with Zoolander 2.
Go pay for other cool things to be made.
Zoolander 2 came out. I didn't feel like I had to go see it. I knew, like, all right,
They were just cashing in.
They're just doing their thing, doing the cash grab. I respect it. I get it. I'm also not going to watch it. I want that to be the feeling if they do that with Barbie 2, because, I mean, it happens too much now. Like we talked about the other week, the fact that they were like, now we have to get a fucking script for every toy that has ever been made. I was just like, you got to be kidding me. You people suck. But yeah.
Shouts to the OG toy movie, Jumanji.
It's a great film, dude. It is. Didn't they redo that too?
Yeah, they did.
And but I bet it sucked. I bet it sucked.
With The Rock.
No Robin. God damn it. He cannot stop. He has to be stopped. He's one of the guys right now that he can't stop doing shit.
Well, that's because they're just paying him literally just $50 million to do movies.
Yeah.
He just gets this $50 million off top, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Anyway, if you're looking for more OCC, we do an exclusive ad-free episode every week driven by hotline calls from the Clam Fam.
How many episodes of Hijack are you going to watch in between now and Thursday?
Ooh. At least 2 or 3.
Yeah?
I'd say 2 or 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Call in about through episode 4 of Hijack.
Sure.
If you want to.
Hijack. Patreon. And call about anything else you're watching or want to give us a take on or have a question about. We'll talk about whatever on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles this week. Subscribe on Patreon for as little as $5 a month to support our show and enjoy so much more exclusive OCC content ad-free. When you join, you immediately gain access to the entire backlog, including everything I said at the top of the podcast today. Lot of Patreon content there on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. Support our sponsors. We would appreciate it if all year long you would support our sponsors by using the dedicated URLs and codes that are in the episode description below. That is how we pay the piper here at Oysters, Clams, and Cockles. Today we had birddogs.com/dragon, code DRAGON for that free tech hat with your order, and factormeals.com/OCC50 to get 50% off your first box. Code OCC50 at factormeals.com/OCC50. Again, links and codes for today's sponsors in the description of this episode. If you're an F1 fan, check out Bolin Media's premier F1 programming, Formula Bone, at youtube.com/@FormulaBone. With over 100,000 other F1 fans, you can enjoy all of the latest recaps and discussions of the F1 races where the same guy wins every single time. And finally, for more from me, Ross Bolin, listen to the Ross Bolin podcast wherever podcasts are played, or watch on youtube.com/@the Ross Bolin podcast. Follow Mr. Barrett Dudley at Barrett Dudley on the Instagram and the threads. And occasionally he pops onto Twitter.
You mean X?
I'm sorry. The app formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah.
Now X.
Thank you.
I'm at WR Bolin on social medias. Go to bolinmedia.com/shop.
Respect the X.
I do.
The Generation X.
Grab yourself some merch. bolinmedia.com/shop. I've got the old Kindle Logan Roy hat atop my head. One of our best sellers ever. bolinmedia.com/shop. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And until next time, peace.